Hello chess lovers, welcome to the new video. So we have game 6. Let's see what happened. So I was black and we are following the moves of game 3 if I recall correctly. So I will not comment on these moves. We have seen them before in the past until here. In that game my opponent played knight f to d2. But today we have bishop g3, a new move in this series. So now I can take this bishop at my own leisure. So I don't need to rush. So I just developed first. And probably I would like to take it once white castles. But sometimes it's not possible. Sometimes I have to take it earlier. It depends on what white does. But let's see. Or if he pushes this pawn, then I want to take definitely. So he developed. I played c6 and bishop d3. And now I was thinking, I wanted to put my pawn here. So I wasn't sure, should I support it with this knight or with this rook? So in the end, I decided to support it with the rook. So I moved knight to f6, castles, castles, and now the first move that I don't like by white, c4. I would go for more restrictive strategy or trying to organize e4, maybe first supporting the d4 pawn. And why? Why I don't like c4? Because usually if I play e5, there are ideas like this, but if this bishop is safe here, as long as I have the option of capturing that bishop, then that's not the way to meet my e5 thrust. At least that's my opinion. So if you imagine this bishop being tucked away, and then white can prepare with some moves, and when I push e5, c5 would be very strong. But as long as I can capture, as I said, that's not so good. So I continued preparing e5, rook c1, and e5, my plan. And after this exchange, I was expecting, of course, this pawn is not hanging because of this attack. That's typical motif in different openings when black pushes e5 and there is a bishop on d3. So I expected him to retreat and maybe try something like this. And I thought maybe just pinning, but I wasn't sure. Of course, I'm not gonna get checkmated so easily as long as I have this knight. I'm gonna make this exchange very soon. And after queen c2, I don't know, maybe I would have been forced to block this diagonal. I'm not sure. I couldn't calculate everything, but that's one possibility. It didn't happen. In the game, my opponent played knight e4, and that's a mistake. Because now, after this exchange, actually two exchanges, there is this idea. But if you watch carefully in the bottom of the screen, you can see my time, and I very quickly played f5. You can see 6 seconds spent, actually because there is 5 seconds added, so I spent 11 seconds. But I rushed. I wasn't careful. So the problem is this diagonal. So I should have prepared this move with bishop e6. And now I'm attacking the pawn and I'm ready to push f5 and to defend like this. Watch what I mean. If he goes b3, I just go f5, bishop retreats, and of course this was the whole idea, to capture this bishop. And after bishop g6, I have bishop f7. So I just win a piece. What happened in the game is I pushed f5 immediately, and once the bishop got back, now I cannot go f4 because of this tactic. And I cannot win material because if my light square bishop was here, I would have had this move, but that's not the case. So once he retreated, I realized, oh my god, I messed up. I messed up. So now I thought that this was a good move. So now I am threatening f4. But this pawn is hanging. Of course, he cannot take it with the knight, because after knight g3, he just loses a piece. But he can take it with the bishop. He can take it with the bishop, and I can take his pawn too. But after this move, I cannot take the exchange. If I take that exchange, I will lose all my pawns. I think these pawns are in big trouble. Also, this rook might come here. So that's a high price to pay to win an exchange. So this was my plan. I wanted to capture like this, and if he moves his rook, actually he has to, I cannot take this pawn. That pawn is not hanging. If I do that, I lose my bishop. Yeah, this is coming. So, I don't know. I was ready to play this position, and I thought maybe it's nice, but actually, upon some reflection, I can say that I have nothing here. So, going back, bishop e6 was not a good move. Not a good move. What was a good move to keep the advantage? Just exchange on g3, and then put the bishop here. Because now we have a bishop pair, and um, white's position is somewhat cramped. We have space, bishop pair, possibilities to open up the position later. What's not to like? But okay, I chose bishop e6, and my opponent made a mistake. So he should have taken here, but he played h4. That's not good. That's not good. Of course, a simple move would be this one, attacking the rook, and what's he gonna do? I don't know, just winning a pawn. But I chose to win a pawn in another manner, which was not as good. Let's see. I took on g3, f takes, and I won a pawn. I destroyed my opponent's structure. But once he played rook f2, I don't know. This pawn is hanging. This pawn is hanging. And if I push, then again, this pawn is somewhat tender. So at this point, I realized that I overestimated my chances, but I am happy that I found this move, f4, because it's counterintuitive, trying to help white get rid of his weak pawns. But the point is to open up the position for my bishops. And here I took with the e-pawn, wanting to activate my rook, but actually computer showed that this was stronger because it just wins material. For example, knight e5, e3, and this rook has no squares. I mean, it has this square, but then it runs into this business. So, for example, he can take my bishop, but I just win in exchange. This would have been great. But I wanted to open my rook. As you can see by the times, already I have 2 minutes, 20 seconds, my opponent 5 minutes. So we are now in a blitz mode, and mistakes might come in abundance. He took, and I took here, and now he played a bad move. b3 was not good. I don't know why he played it. Maybe he was scared for this pawn, but of course that he should have activated. I mean, this is the most natural move. And then the fight goes on. For example, I can threaten the pin along this diagonal, but it's a fight. I have better chances, but it's a fight. I mean, probably his position is really bad, but I need to prove it. After b3, I just fortify on d5, and he is never getting here. So now I think he has a really bad position. And here I was thinking maybe he will go to d4, and I tried to make this work, but it doesn't. He can just come down. I will have to eventually exchange here, and this rook is okay. I can save the pawn, but I don't know. I don't think it's good. I think it would have been better to just defend this pawn for now and try to stabilize. But he didn't play that. He didn't play knight d4. Instead, he doubled here, which I don't understand. Because how is he going to get through? Maybe there is something I'm missing, but I don't get it. Why was this move played? Maybe he didn't like the fact that his rook and king were lined up. I don't know. So I went in, knight d4. Now I decided to give up my bishop here. In anticipation of this move, I thought, okay, he's probably going to get my bishop here. I didn't see that I can save it like this. But I thought, okay, I'm just going to exchange, which was not great, but okay. And now I'm playing an endgame where I put my rook on the 7th and force him to make a defensive move, and the exchanges will soon come, and I have great winning chances here. That was my opinion. But what I had missed was this move. And now I don't have a rook on the 7th. For example, after this exchange, he's just going to play bishop f3, uh, invite me into a rook endgame, a pawn down, but he will activate this rook. If I try to be active myself, I don't know. After bishop f3, I don't see how I can win this. Not easy, because even if I don't go into a rook endgame, he can go here and then here. So I will win this pawn, but he's going to win something on the queen side, and it just leads to more reduction of material. So yeah, that was my bad judgment. I didn't see this move, bishop d1, very strong defensive move, with the idea of later exchanging bishops or opening the d file. So that is what my opponent could have played, but he did something that he was not supposed to. He took here. Of course, that's why I played here, so he doesn't have time to capture, but he missed it. And now he's just a piece down, so I don't need, I don't think much commentary is needed for the rest. So I'll just cut it short and play through the game. There are a few points which I will make a small remark. For example, here I had the option of taking, but then after this I cannot check because of this pin. I mean, of course, this is winning too, but why allow this? I just reversed the move order, and after this, that's just one less pawn for white. And now the pawns will start rolling as they did. And at the end, I realized that there is a possibility to checkmate without promoting. I don't know if it's the fastest, but for example, here he allowed it. So after this, I just play king f4, and there is no defense to the checkmate on h1. So no need to promote this pawn, and this is how the game ended. All right, so it was quite a messy game with lots of mistakes on both sides, but somehow I prevailed again. Thank you for watching, and see you next time. Bye.